Chapter 3, The Call from the Mist. Eamon's blood ran cold, the voice unmistakable. It was Lorna, calling to him from somewhere beyond the mist that wrapped itself around the village. He scrambled down the ladder, his hands trembling as he landed on the stone floor of the church, eyes wild with fear and confusion. The bell had stopped ringing, but the whisper lingered in the air, fragile yet persistent. "Father, come." The voice seemed to drift from outside the church, beckoning him toward the snow-covered streets of Alderwyck. Eamon stumbled toward the door, his mind screaming at him to stop, to stay inside where it was safe. But the sound of his daughter's voice clawed at his heart, pulling him toward the unknown. He swung open the heavy wooden door and stepped out into the night. The mist was thick, rolling in like an endless sea, swallowing the village in its ghostly embrace. The familiar outlines of the houses were barely visible, their dark windows staring back at him like hollow eyes. "Lorna," he called, his voice hoarse and cracking with desperation. "Lorna, where are you?" The silence that followed was deafening. And then, from deep within the mist, the voice came again. Clearer this time, closer. "Father, I'm here." Eamon's pulse quickened as he took a tentative step forward, his boots sinking into the snow. He knew this was wrong, knew that whatever was calling to him wasn't really Lorna. But the part of him that still clung to hope, that refused to let go of his family, was louder than reason. He moved through the village, the mist swirling around him like a living thing. The further he walked, the more distorted the world became. The houses stretched and twisted, their stone walls bending at unnatural angles. The familiar path through the village now seemed unfamiliar, as though Alderwyck itself was shifting beneath his feet. Suddenly, he saw her. A small figure standing just beyond the edge of the mist, her back turned to him, bathed in the faint glow of the moon. Lorna's dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, her small frame still as a statue. "Lorna." Eamon's voice cracked with relief, and he rushed forward, his heart hammering in his chest. "Lorna, I'm here." But as he drew closer, something was wrong. The figure didn't move. Her posture was rigid, unnatural. Eamon slowed his pace, his breath catching in his throat as dread pooled in his stomach. "Lorna." His voice was barely a whisper now. The figure slowly began to turn, its movements jerky, as though pulled by invisible strings. When it finally faced him, Eamon staggered back in horror. It wasn't Lorna. The thing that stood before him had her face, her small, innocent features, but they were twisted, warped beyond recognition. Her eyes were black, voids of darkness that reflected no light. Her mouth stretched into a grotesque grin, far too wide for her face, and her skin was pale, almost translucent. "Father." It whispered, its voice distorted and layered with something ancient, something inhuman. Eamon stumbled backward, the mist closing in around him as the creature began to move toward him, its twisted smile widening with each step.